In this video, we're going to see the effects of SharePoint versioning settings on co-authoring. So what we have here is a view of a SharePoint document library. There's actually two views. On the left-hand side, we're logged into the document library as user Tony. Tony has a blue banner along the top. On the right-hand side, we're logged in as a colleague, Eamon. Eamon has a black banner along the top. Now, let's take a quick look at the library settings. First of all, if we do this as user Tony and take a look at the versioning settings for the library, you'll notice at the bottom, this option to require checkout has been set to no. What that means is users can edit documents in this document library without having to check them out first. And this setting is key to enabling co-authoring. It allows multiple users to edit the document at the same time without the exclusive lock on the document that a checkout would enforce. So let's take a look at this in action. So if I go back to this collaboration documents area and I open this document as user Tony, it'll launch in Word Online by default on my machine, which is fine. This can also be launched in the Word directly, desktop version of Word. And as user Tony, we can now start making changes to this document. So I can update it. And those changes, because I'm in Word Online here, are saved into SharePoint almost instantaneously. Now, Eamon's experience on the right-hand side, if Eamon wants to work on this document as well, he can also quite happily do so by clicking on the document as well. It'll also launch within Word Online for Eamon, and it will also show the latest changes that have just been made by Tony. Okay, and what you'll notice, by the way, is a small icon appeared there on Tony's view to indicate Eamon is now working on this document here as well. And in fact, for both colleagues, if you look on the ribbon in Word itself, you'll see the +3 here that indicates there are multiple people working on this document at the same time. Now, watch what happens if we make some changes here on the left-hand side as user Tony. So this some extra text added by Tony. You can see on the right-hand side, Eamon's view of the document, he can see straight away that TO, this user Tony, has made these changes, and Eamon is seeing this in virtual real time. Similarly, as user Eamon makes changes here on the right hand side, Tony will see them on the left hand side. So this text was added by Eamon, for example, and again you're seeing instantaneously or almost instantaneously that text appearing in Tony's view here on the left hand side. So this is why co-authoring is really, really useful. It's effectively using the SharePoint server itself as the central store for the master copy of the document. As changes are made by users, those changes are instantly uploaded back into SharePoint itself and made available for other users who are working on the document to synchronize into their views of the world. If you're using Word Online, then this is almost instantaneous, as you've seen here. If you're using desktop versions of Word, then sometimes you might get a slight lag, and what you need to do is click the Save button in Word to refresh your copy of the document, your local desktop copy of the document, with the latest changes from your colleagues. But it's a really useful, really powerful feature, this concept of co-authoring. Now, one minor drawback of the approach here, of this co-authoring concept, is around version control. Now, the way versioning works when you have it set up like this is as the users are working together on the document, SharePoint will take a snapshot every couple of minutes and store that snapshot as a version. Similarly, if a user closes the file, that can also be stored as the version as well. But what it does mean is that there's no direct one-to-one mapping between the version history of the document itself and the actual users who made the changes in that version. Okay, and that's potentially a drawback that some information managers don't like with this concept of co-authoring. If you do need really tight control of the versions within your document library, and you want to be able to explicitly pinpoint which user made the changes between version 0.13 and 0.14, for example, then with co-authoring you can't easily do that. Okay, it's not as immediately obvious. Now, if you do have that requirement, that's where you would require checkout. Let's take a quick look at that. So I have a second document library here called controlled documents. And in this document library, I want to make sure that any files that are added to this document library and edited in this document library, I can tightly control who has made the changes and audit that. Now, let's take a quick look. I'm going to add, first of all, a document into this document library. I'll just drag and drop for now. So I'm going to add that in as user Tony. You'll notice that it's got a small green tick on the icon here. That's indicating it's currently checked out to me, to user Tony. Okay. Now, if I want to check that document in, I can simply go to the ribbon here and choose check in. Okay. And that will now check in that file and make it available for other colleagues to now see as well. So if Eamon does a refresh on this document library, Eamon can now see that this formal contract has been added by Tony. Now, if Tony wants to make further changes to this contract document, then to do that, he needs to check out the document first of all. So checkout is fairly straightforward. Simply select the document and choose checkout from the ribbon here. And that will now again put the little green icon, the little green arrow on the word icon itself, indicating that it's checked out. Tony can now open the document as before, and Tony can of course now start making changes to the document if necessary in the system itself. Okay, so there we go. I can now start making some changes. Now, what about other users? What do they see during this time? Well, let's take a look at what Eamon is seeing. Okay, so Eamon is seeing that Tony has added version 0.1 of this document. If he refreshes the screen here, it's still showing version 0.1. He can also see that Tony has it checked out, okay, by hovering. Now, if Eamon tries to access this document, watch what happens. Eamon can click on the document itself. What Eamon will see is the previously checked in version of the file. He's not seeing any updates that Tony is making in real time because Tony has the document currently checked out. Okay, Eamon will see the previously checked in version of the document. So you'll notice the small difference here. Tony has made some updates to the document here while he has it checked out. Eamon isn't seeing those. In addition, if Eamon were to try to edit this document, first of all, it's in read-only mode here by default. If he were to try to edit the document by clicking edit document here on the ribbon, you'll see here that he gets an error message because Tony has the document checked out. And the point here, of course, is that Word and SharePoint Online effectively is ensuring that only Tony can make changes to that document. Nobody else can co-author the document with Tony until Tony checks the document back in. And once it's checked back in, then Eamon can check it out. Now, to check in the document, all Tony needs to do is, once he's finished his changes, go back to the SharePoint document library and choose the option to check in the file. When Tony checks it in, he's given the option of what kind of version he's creating here. Is it a minor version, 0.2 minor version? Or does he want to publish this as a major version, 1.0? Or, third option, is he can overwrite the current minor version, 0.1, with the latest updates here. But what I'm going to do is just publish this as a major version. I can put in some comments. So major version ready for release, for example. And there we go. Tony has checked out the document, made some changes to it, checked those changes back in and published that as a major version of the document. And of course, to validate that, we can go to the version history as Tony. There we go. There's the version history in question. And similarly, if Eamon, his colleague, then goes back in and does a refresh on the library, he'll also be able to see the version history for that file as well. And of course, if Eamon now wants to make changes to the document, he can also check it out, make changes himself. But the key point is that with this configuration, only one user can make changes to the document at any point in time. They need to check the document out before they make their changes. They need to then check the document back in once they've completed making their changes. And therefore, you're getting that nice one-to-one mapping between the versions that are there in SharePoint and the user who made those changes.